Welcome. My name is Nisa Flagger, and I am Vice Mayor of Los Altos, and I'm also the Legislative Action Committee Chair for the Cities Association of Santa Clara County. The Cities Association is an association of the 15 cities in the County of Santa Clara and the elected representatives of more than 1.9 million Bay Area residents. Since 1990, these representatives have been successfully collaborating to discuss and find consensus and solutions for regional issues to best serve the community. Our mission is to strive for a unified voice to support our diverse cities and constituents of all backgrounds. Our cities range from a few thousand people to a city of over 1 million people. We are continuing our conversation today with our state representatives, and I am honored to welcome Assemblymember Kansen Chu to join us this afternoon. Welcome, Assemblymember Chu.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you very much for serving as an elected position for all the members with the Cities Association, and thank you for your services. You know, before I got elected to the Assembly, I have the honor to serve as a council member in San Jose City. It was a great experience. It was a great honor. And I wanted to really just express my appreciation for all you do, you know, and with your constituents and also the Cities Association, also trying to get some regional solutions. I think this is very, very much important work. You know, so many of the issues that we're facing in our cities, talking about transportation, talking about water issue, talking about environmental issue, and talking about the housing issue. There's really no boundary, especially when we are hit by this COVID-19. You know, this virus doesn't recognize our artificial boundaries. So collaboration with all the important leaders, local important leaders, is very, very key to the success of the whole region. So thank you very much for having me here.
No, it's an honor to have you, and I'm happy you mentioned your service in San Jose, because in addition to that, I want those listening to understand that you've been serving our communities for a long time. You were elected in November 2014 to represent California's 25th Assembly District, which includes the Alameda County communities of Fremont and Newark, and the Santa Clara County communities of Milpitas, San Jose, and Santa Clara. As an Assembly member, you have served as the chair of the Arts, Entertainment, Sports, Tourism, and Internet Media Committee.
It's
so
a mouthful.
Your service, it was, but I got it all out, Assembly member. And so really, it's a pleasure to formally meet you in this setting and to have this discussion. You know, you mentioned COVID in your introductory statement, and so I want to start there.
Okay.
First, how are you doing? How is your family doing?
Thank you very much for asking. We're doing fine. You know, you mentioned about the Arts, Entertainment, Sports, Tourism Committee. Actually, when I first got elected to the Assembly, I was chairing of the Assembly Human Services Committee. So it was, very, very close to my heart. And in 2017, I started a select committee on hate crime. And we have done tremendous work of improving the police training and the relationship with the community. Back to your question about COVID-19. Your question?
No, I want to check in and just see how you're doing and your family.
Thank you so much. Right.
Right. No, that's Great. And before we, go into the substance of the wonderful work you're doing in Sacramento, I'm curious if you're reading anything, either to escape what's going on, to learn more what's going on, or just anything. Are you reading anything interesting or watching any programs on TV?
Definitely, not much of a leisure reading. It's been a very, very, very challenging and kind of a difficult time for our community. So my staff and I are so busy working with trying to solve some problem with the community, especially in the EDD, employment part. So most of my reading, whenever I have time, like to catch up on the COVID-19. There's a lot of information provided by the state and the local county health department, as well as the cities. So I'm trying to just keep myself abreast of what's going on in all different programs that the state, the federal, and local government have to offer. I just finished a Zoom meeting with our treasurer, Fiona Ma, this morning or this afternoon, on how to get the business, how to get the economy restarted, how to help out with some small business owners. And we had a series of Zoom meeting on different topics. Mental health, is very, in this challenging time, public safety, Kelp Fresh, the food coupon,
Yes.
that issue. What else? We have some, but there was a lot of Zoom meeting that my office has hosted, but also participate in a lot of Zoom meeting regarding to the COVID-19, regarding to the Black Lives Movement, and regarding to the wildfire prevention, because we're getting into that season again, and a lot of mental health issues, and also a lot of Zoom meeting with the local city councils as well as the local school district on the school reopening. So it's been keeping me quite busy, and now the session is just started, and the hotel that I usually stayed in Sacramento are not open yet. So I have to do a lot of commute back and forth between San Jose and Sacramento. That's really consumed a lot of my time.
That's right. Oh, wow, Assembly member. Now, I mean, I asked whether or not you were reading or watching anything, but this list of things that you're obviously working on is keeping you busy. I heard about the Zoom meeting you had with Fiona Ma earlier today, and because you brought it up, I will jump to that question. Anything you think shared during that meeting would be relevant to the Santa Clara County cities? For example, Los Altos has worked closely with our Chamber of Commerce to identify different ways to support our restaurants and retailers throughout the city. And I'm curious whether or not, because this is not a short-term problem, we have small business groups that will not be able to come back after this. We have small businesses that are suffering because of this, and I know you know all of this. So I'm wondering, are there any highlights from your conversation with Fiona Ma earlier today that you would like to share?
Thank you very much for the question. And the answer is quite simple. Get onto my website or be friend with me on the Facebook. We recorded the whole meeting, because there's a lot of information and the situation is kind of fluid. Yes. We're waiting for the care pack, the second care pack from the federal government, and a lot of local government that I learned, like City of Milpitas and San Jose, are ready to come up with their package or their program to help with their local business as well. So. Right. Be friend with me on the Facebook, and the whole thing was recorded, And there's a lot of great information, contact information. If any one of you can share with your constituent, I think it's very, very helpful.
Right. Thanks for that. And you also mentioned, you know, you're back in session. I think you resumed this week. What is that like? I mean, post, you know, what it used to be, not post-COVID. COVID is still very much with us. But can you tell us how the sessions, how they're conducted, and maybe the priorities have changed since March as a result of COVID?
Oh, definitely. You know, at the beginning of the session, I think just from our side, the assembly side, we have about 2,000 bills, right? Now, I believe, it's a kind of average number every session, every year.
Right, but with a compressed timeline now, I'm sure.
Right, right. So a lot of them got kind of stalled or halted. And we'll probably have about 250 bills are still moving, and the reason because of the compact timeline that you mentioned, and also the social distancing. You know, a lot of our smaller committee room, we just cannot use it anymore because we would not be able to have that many members and the public to testify. So we only be able to do the committee meeting in the two larger committee room, or sometimes one of the meeting, couple of the committee meeting, we actually did it on the assembly floor, so to keep a safe distance between all the participants. And there's the rules and regulations that we can only allow one of our staff in the building at a time. And but with the modern technology, we'll still be able to communicate back and forth with my staff. And one silver lining out of it is that we do allow public to call in to testify, either to support or oppose a bill. I thought that was pretty good. You know, the Constitution, the state constitution do not allow the legislature to use the remote voting. We have to be physically present to vote. So we're working on ways that we'll be able to use the modern technology and conduct the people's business, but it has a lot of legal implications, and I don't think we'll see that this year, but it is something that the leadership are working toward. And because, you know, who knows what the next pandemic or, you know, or whatever man-made or natural disaster that we may be encountered, and will require this distance remote voting. So we're still working on it, and the session was much shorter, 2 weeks, or maybe 3 weeks shorter. So we limited the committee hearing. You know, like the Senate, we have pretty much in the Assembly the same guideline that we could only have one committee hearing, you know, for this session. Yep. And Senate further limit the time for the committee hearing to 3 hours. So that's also why we're trimming down a lot of the bill, which we don't, not COVID related. But even some of the COVID related bill got stalled because of the physical impact, you know, the appropriation issue, the cost of implementing the bill. Also put an additional constraint to some of our bills. One of the bill that I've been working on it for a long time, for the whole session, since the beginning of the session last year, was to provide language accessibility to our immigrant community when there is a state declared emergency. Because my experience serving on the east side of San Jose, which has the highest COVID-19 cases, I'm really not proud of it. And because at the initial outbreak, a lot of information was not properly communicated to my constituent, because of the language barrier, because of the technology barriers, not a lot of family has the internet services or has a computer or a laptop and stuff like that. So we're trying to solve this problem by providing a better language accessibility to our constituents. That bill is not moving because of the cost of implementing that bill.
Right. Wow. I'm listening, and there's so many things to talk about. You mentioned the fact that you and it's the typical number of having 2,000 bills, but really maybe 250 will move forward. Are there any of the 250 that you're championing or you think would be good for the Cities Association to be aware of? Could you mention a couple of those bills and share just at a high level what those bills aim to address? One of the things I've heard from other state representatives, and I know the governor said this as well, is, unfortunately, because of the compressed time frame in the budget, because the budget has significantly changed since what we had projected pre-COVID in January, we have to look through the lens of COVID in selecting and advocating the bills that should really move forward. COVID should be the lens everyone looks through. And so I'm curious, Assemblymember Chu, if, of those 250 bills, are there ones you're championing and why, and how and if they relate to Santa Clara County cities?
I'll mention a couple. I did mention the AB 1107, which is the language accessibility bill. Just because I represent a very diverse neighborhood in this area, and more than 60% of my constituents are English are not their primary languages. There's more than 70 different languages are spoken as we speak. So that's a big issue for me. That bill was initially targeted toward the PG&E because when last year when they have the power shut down, they never bothered to send out the advance notice in any language except for English. So a lot of our constituents here didn't even get this their notification, and not because and so we initially I wanted to address the PG&E. But after the COVID-19, we amended to cover all the state emergency. Hopefully, will give me a better chance of passing the both houses. But it is what it is. Another bill I was advocating for many years is to what I call a school-based mental health services. I wanted to have mental health professionals in every public school at a ratio of 1 to 400, 200, and there was we'll never be able to have an open discussion of what is the proper ratio, but the goal is to have some mental health services in the public school. And the UCLA study shows that about average 70% of the kids that require or need the mental health services don't have access to mental health services.
True. Yep.
And 85% of the kids in the disadvantaged community, 85% of the kids don't have access to mental health services. So what's a better place to provide those services to the children as well as a family member. And I will say the school, is the most convenient and is for the parents and also for the children to receive some mental health services. So that bill, AB 8.
AB 8.
Yeah, AB 8. And it's not going anywhere again because of the cost of the implementing that bill. Another bill, I thought it was an easy
Can I
one.
just, so Assemblymember Chu, and the reason I'm very, very interested in AB 8, and this is actually the first time I'm hearing about it, I don't know if you're familiar with CHAC, which is a nonprofit organization in Mountain View. That's a JPA for Los Altos Hills, and Mountain View, where each school district and city council in their annual budget allocate a certain amount of money to support CHAC, because CHAC provides exactly what you're talking about, mental health counseling for the kids in our communities. And
Wow.
as vice chair, it's CHAC, CHAC. Please look it up.
CHAC.
I am the vice chair. So every Los Altos Hills, Los Altos Mountain View, each city council has a representative on the board, and each school board at all levels has a representative on the board. And it is, it's invaluable, especially during COVID. The demand for the mental health counseling services has increased, and we only imagine that it will increase more in the fall. We're actually planning a CHAC community virtual town hall for late August to talk to parents, to talk to families, to let them know about this resource.
God bless you. That's really good. Was the county involved?
Is there any? The county is not part of the JPA. The county has allocated funds to CHAC, different donations, but the county is not a member of the CHAC board or organization.
Thank you so much for mentioning that to me.
Yes. But is there any way to resurrect AB 8, or you think it's completely dead for this year?
It's probably dead for this year. Yeah, but I'm hoping that there will be some other mental health advocate campaign in the legislature to continue bringing it back, to continue their effort.
Yes.
School-based mental health is very close and dear to my heart. Before I got elected to the various school board, I volunteered my time on this Santa Clara County Behavioral Health Board for a good 6 years.
Yes.
So I will definitely find somebody to continue to carry the torch forward. As you may know, that I'm not going back to Sacramento. I'm coming home and run for county supervisor. So yeah, I don't think I'll be able to carry that bill, which I have been carried for 2 consecutive years. But I'll definitely continue find somebody to continue carrying the torch. You mentioned about the great need for mental health. That reminds me about a town hall on the domestic violence.
Another big one. Yep.
Yeah, because right now they're perpetrators and are staying in the same roof most of the time. And there's really not that many opportunity for the victim to report a domestic violence issue, and there's not a lot of opportunity for the children to report either a violence issue or a mental health issue. So we need to be more proactive to be able to reach out to families. My staff and I have been doing this wellness check call. So we're calling people that don't have the emails, that doesn't have the internet. Luckily, they still have a landline to do some awareness check of those families. And I think I would encourage all the city leaders and the city department to also proactively reaching out to your constituents, because it is it's really a very stressful time for so many of people. We're talking about the financial stress, the physical stress, and the mental health stress. So we need to take more proactive approach instead of just sitting there to wait for them to contact us. We need to reach out to them.
No, I completely agree. We have a local nonprofit organization called Women SV, and when Los Altos City Council was deciding how can we support the different groups that are serving where the highest need is right now in our communities, we also, in addition to donating to CSA, and also, as I said, the small business donation that we also made a donation to Women SV. And I know many other cities did that or is thinking about it. So we are right there with you, Assemblymember Chu.
Great.
Before we
thank you for bringing that chat to my attention.
Good. And if you need to talk to the executive director, let me know. I'm on the
I will, definitely
very good
will, because I think, those school-based mental health, we can really start as small. You set up a good example. And when I get elected to the county, I would like to work with a few school district. May not all the school district will sign on to this, but at least those wanted to sign on to it and just start it small. I think that's another way to push legislation like ABA through the legislature. Because you have to.
It's a great model. CHAC is a great model, Assemblymember. Definitely reach out.
I definitely will reach out to them. You have to realize that although we are elected by the district, we share a lot of constituents. However, our responsibility is to the whole California, right?
Yes,
I agree. The whole community. So a lot of issues that may be good for our area, and is not necessarily good from people who live in Imperial County or all the way to the north of Modoc County. So a lot of ideas, I think I would really like to start as small and locally, and I think will propagate to the statewide, and that's another way that we'll be able to make some state legislations.
No, I agree. And I don't know if you know this, Assemblymember Chu, I actually worked for the county for 9 years. So I'm very familiar with the different departments there and the structure and the different things that you'd be able to accomplish there.
Oh, okay. Worked for Santa Clara County?
I did. So I was in county council's office for 9 years.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and I supported the Department of Mental Health. I mean, they eventually collapsed mental health, DADS, the Department of Alcohol and Drug Services, into a behavioral health group. But before they did that, I negotiated and advised a lot of the mental health executives, the department heads.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I am familiar with that department and the work they do. And so, and they do, as you know, community-based organization contracts where we do make these awards annually to these groups to provide the services in our community. But what you're talking about is a little bit different.
All right. Any other bills? Oh, there was another bill. I don't know. How are we doing with time? I just want to quickly mention that.
Normally we do this for 50 minutes, so we have 15 more minutes, and I'll tell you, I I wanted to touch on, the digital divide, which I think we already, started talking about, especially because, as you said, east side of San Jose, even thinking statewide, not just our own immediate constituents, but are there any bills or things you're working on that will address this digital divide that was highlighted because of COVID, and with continued virtual online learning, we anticipate will only get worse if we don't do something about it now?
Yeah, it's probably not something that we'll be able to do anything this year because of the budgetary issue. But I'm really, really hoping that the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies in our district can step up to the plate and help out.
I agree.
With the situation. They're not only, they're essentially, to me, they're helping out with their employees and their families, because they have some social responsibility that I believe so, that they do have some social responsibility. So there was a bill I authored it. It's AB 398, which would require those large companies that has more than 500 employees, 700 employees, that's up to for discussion, to pay head tax or employee tax based on the number of their employee, and for like $125 or whatever, $250. And again, those number will be hashed out in the committees or on the floors. But the idea is for the Fortune 500 company to pay employee tax to the school. 50% of the money will go to the school, 30% of the money will go to the city, and 20% of the money will go to the county to address so many of the issues that we're talking about right here. And
right.
So the income inequality should definitely be on the front and center of many of our social discussions as well. So I do believe, I agree with you that the income inequality, I don't think had that much of the attention that I would like to see. I believe income inequality, it is the biggest barrier for equal access. So we definitely will need to put shine some limelight on this income equality issue. I'm from the east side of San Jose, but even in Los Gatos, I believe that you will see some the disparities.
Oh yes. Los Altos. I do want to make sure you have my city right. Los Altos. Los Altos, not Los Gatos.
Los Gatos. Right?
Yes, Los Altos.
Definitely.
I tease my Los Gatos colleagues all the time. I don't want to be confused with their city.
All right.
So, Assemblymember Chu, we can't have this discussion without talking housing. I was elected in 2018, and so last year, which was my first full year really, one of the #1 bills that everybody got really involved and worked up about was SB 50, the Wiener bill that eventually went away. But there's several other housing bills that appear to be making their way through the process. And I know most of them are on the Senate side, not the Assembly side, but I'm curious, are there any of the housing bills that you think, one, they're worth supporting, you think we should pay attention to, or you have concerns about, or we could even step back, because when you look at these housing bills, a lot of the concerns we hear is, whether or not by having some of these housing bills, it takes away local control. Will it change the character of our communities? Is it a threat to the environment if you completely get rid of CEQA requirements? So there are all these concerns being voiced, whether or not now is the right time to push through housing bills when we really don't know what the impact of COVID will be. There's a transportation piece as well, which is, if more people are telecommuting, working from home, does that mean we don't need to have the housing next to the jobs? So there's a lot going on in that space, as you can imagine. And I will tell you, housing is the #1 issue that comes up at our Cities Association meetings every month. And we have representatives from all the 15 cities. This is an issue they care about, we talk about, we send letters. And so it would be very important just to hear from you, your view, as it appears many of these bills continue to keep moving forward.
Well, yeah, definitely. Housing and transportation to me is a problem of the two phases. We need to, as we're talking about housing, we definitely need to improve the public transportation services so people can be able to commute without polluting our environment, and also be able to work close to where they live. Because that is definitely an issue. When I traveled from San Jose to Sacramento,
Yes.
I see the reverse, the commute. Those people from Central Valley have to pretty much waited on the freeway, 2 hours in each way to get to work, and that's a lot of pollutants that they're putting out.
I agree.
In our environment, and also that's the quality time they should be spending with their families. So the transportation and the housing is definitely to me is two faces of the same issue. I support an approach that that the state should be providing some arena numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of city, because lack of the teeth of those numbers, would pretty much ignore those numbers for years. So this year, at the beginning, we have talked to the governor, and we're trying to provide some carrot and also some sticks, to the local government to trying to implement those arena numbers. And I think before the COVID-19, we have filed suit about 2 or 3 coastal cities in Southern California, and we have allocated money. I think the total maybe close to $1 billion for the local government to build affordable housing. I have a bill, AB 2988, which specifically is for the permanent supportive housing. I think there, as we the what we call silver tsunamis coming, and the supportive housing it's very important for the senior, for the retirees, and also for those people that have multiple barriers.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about housing the homeless.
Yep.
But about 60%, now all the homeless people have some multiple barriers, and so when we provide housing to those people, we need to also provide the supportive services
yes,
to those
I agree.
people.
Yep.
40% of
it's the wraparound, the whole thing.
Wraparound services.
A wraparound.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and my priority is to pick the low-hanging fruit. because there's 40% of the homeless population don't have those mental health issue, drug issue. They were forced into the situation because, you know, they probably lost one of the two jobs they have, and because of, you know, women trying to get away from the abusive domestic violence. They grab their kids, they run out of the door, they become homeless immediately.
That's right.
And so when I served on the Bay Area School board in the early 2000s, we have identified 2 or 3 homeless students. So I think when we're talking about addressing the homelessness issue, we should start out with definitely have an equitable amount to those people that just pretty much experience a temporary homelessness situation. So the rapid rehousing will be able to, you know, put the roof over their head and then provide them with some computers so they can continue looking for the job.
Looking for jobs, you know? Yep.
And they have an address, you know, to receive their mails or their employment or employers letters and stuff like that.
Because the forms require an address, right?
Yeah.
The forms they have to fill out require an address.
Right. So I think those are the things that we could, I call it low-hanging fruit, because it costs less to help a family for the rapid rehousing than to help one family that are the other extreme spectrum of the homelessness issue. So we need to know the different reasons for people becoming homelessness. And for housing, definitely I support the 3P approach. You know, I mentioned about money from the state government to help out as a carrot for the local government to develop the plan, or actually spend on building those below the market units. But what I also would like to see the local government, you know, invoke the 3P approach. You know, improve definitely increase the production, and also pay attention to the prevention. How can we prevent those people from being homeless? And definitely a preservation that you mentioned about, still be able to maintain the character of the community with a certain preservation work. So, and again, it's a regional issue. This is really something, I'm not surprised that this is brought up in your meeting every time, which to truly a regional issue. And I would also invite some transportation experts to also be in the meeting to shed some light about how can we reduce the housing need by improving the moving people from places to places.
Right. No, and you know, you mentioned RENA. You know, we all the different Bay Area counties and counties throughout California have now received their big RENA numbers, and for the 9 Bay Area counties, it's 441,000 plus. And so, to your point, that, you know, in order for cities and jurisdictions to meet that number, they're going to need help. Financial help is definitely one of the key concerns we hear from cities, why they're not able to meet the big RENA numbers. And so I appreciate hearing, at least for Southern California, that you were able to support getting some funding there. But that is definitely one of the big areas and issues that we hear about when cities say, there's no way we can meet these big numbers. And, you know, it's,
Well, yeah.
and where the demand is.
It is challenging, but the money there's money for every city,
Right.
not just for Southern California. You know, I know that Fremont last year received I can't remember the dollar amount, but the money is there. The carrot is there.
Right.
You know, we realize that we need to provide some financial assistance to the local government.
Yeah.
You know.
And the Cities Association housing charter or position paper that we adopted a couple of months ago, you'll be happy to hear we definitely captured those 3 P's that you mentioned.
Great.
Yes, we did. And so the last, and we only have 2 minutes, so I'll quickly jump to, you know, is there anything that we can do to support you in your efforts in Sacramento, especially those efforts that would benefit our cities? I mean, one of the things we do in addition to having these one-on-one conversations and tracking what's going on in Sacramento is, you know, we rally our troops, we rally our members to write letters, make phone calls if we believe supporting a bill or opposing a bill will benefit and is in the best interest of our communities.
So thank you very much for the offer. You know, there's probably 3-4 bills of my 3-4 of my bills are still moving. You know, just on top of my head is AB 7, which is to eliminate the switching back and forth of the clock. You know, the spring forward, the fall back.
Yes.
And the voter has spoken on Proposition 7 2 years ago, and we got overwhelmingly support. But the AB 7 is still slowly. I haven't heard from the chair that he's not going to hear the bill, but I'm hoping that we'll bring some closure to this issue. You know, our neighboring state, Oregon and Washington, already passed laws to pretty much say that they will follow the lead of California. And the California hasn't really, the legislature, even after the voter has passed in support, haven't taken the action to make it into the law. Of course, the reason being that eventually we'll still need a Congress to tweak their uniform time map to allow state to have the third choice, which is, you know, staying in the daylight saving time era. So now you can do it by phone, you know, and I would encourage you to continue sending email to your state legislatures, and a fax will work, and the phone will work. We actually keep a record of every one of those communication that my office received, you know, and also encourage your constituent to participate in this year's census. It is such a big deal, you know. California being contribute the most to the federal treasury.
Yep.
And we want to definitely get our fair share back. You're talking about housing, you're talking about transportation, you're talking about mental health,
services, yeah,
health services,
social services,
education, you know, transportation. We're very much rely on the federal government. So make sure you be counted, and that's would be my parting statement. And be safe at home.
Thank
You
you.
know, wearing mask, keeping social distance, you know, wash your hand, personal hygiene are the only tool that we have to combat this virus until we have the
Vaccine,
shot,
yeah.
the vaccine. Yeah. So.
Now, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much again for making the time to meet with us and talk. I have learned so much. I don't know if you've noticed, I've been taking so many notes.
Oh.
This has been very helpful, and I look forward to our members watching this video. All the best. Please stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for everything you're doing for our communities.
All right, great. Thank you. I'm sorry that we have to move the meetings around, but
I know.
I'm glad that we finally
it worked out.
All right, great. Thank you.